I thought a good question before we get to the ones I've sent you is we're now halfway through the quarterfinals of Metal to the Masses for 2023. Kadama, you were in the final of 2022's. We had Dead Flesh in the semi-final, I believe, last year.
Yeah.
And Nick, obviously, you've been heavily involved in Metal to the Masses over the years. I wanted to get an idea particularly from Richard and Mike's point of view. What is it that bands will be going through the band's head now, going after a quarterfinal? So you've done your heat, you've got through your heat, you've got through your quarterfinal. What goes through the band's mind going into the semis? And then from Nick's point of view, when we come to you afterwards, I'd like to know from yours, what would you be suggesting to bands to be thinking about going into the semis? So, Mike, what was it like for Kadama, and what was going through your heads after the quarterfinals?
I think the main thing was just about building momentum and having fun with it, really. And we were kind of noticing, like, show to show, that we were trying to step it up each time. Even though each time we played, we were like, that's probably one of the best shows we've played. We were like, how can we, bring it like an extra 10% next time, just to try and get our message across and get what we're doing across in the best way possible. So I think, like, for the bands going through at the moment, it is all about trying to forget about the competition element and just taking it. I've got a next show coming up, like the last one was awesome. Let's ride that energy and just keep it going, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, just sorry to butt in, that yes, spot on, Mike. That's exactly what it's about.
And how was it for Dead?
Obviously, it's nice when you go through, obviously, but it's
So yeah, with Dead Flesh, obviously, because Dead Flesh was a newish band at that time last year as well. So going from heat quarterfinal, what was going through the Dead Flesh guys' heads, getting ready for a semi-final?
I think just making sure that we did the best show that we could do. Obviously going from like round to round or whatever, it was it's always like pretty nerve-wracking, but just giving it, even if especially if you're like one of the bands that performs in the beginning of the night, like the first or the second band on, but playing as if we were the headline band, so to speak, and just doing our best, really. That's what that was our aim. Yeah.
And is there that temptation, I guess, in a band to suddenly go, well, it worked in the heat and it worked in the quarterfinals, so we'll stick to our set? Or is it a case of you kind of go, do you know what, we need to throw something like brand new in there, we want to do something completely different in the next set, just to kind of give us a factor? What's kind of the viewpoint on that?
I've always said to the guys, in my opinion, was to do the same set each time, and because rather than trying to throw something new in, like it could be disastrous, if you haven't rehearsed it enough, and having that element of like knowing exactly what you're doing down to a T is probably quite important in like this sort of competition sense and being like at your peak. So that was where my head was at in terms of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like show to show, there's advantages to both. Like as Rich was saying, like when you're well oiled, you know exactly what to expect from your set list, and it's you're going to give the best performance possible. But for the returning people who are coming heat to heat, even if it's just like a little order switch up or something different, or just like throwing in an intro track or just something that's like, oh, that's a little bit different, kind of makes people who are into what you're doing go, oh, that's cool as well. So, but Rich is right, like you definitely don't want to be like, okay, we're gonna throw in this song we wrote last week, something like that. It's just not worth doing.
Right. So, Nick, any other advice that you would be talking to bands sort of going for like semi-final coming up? What's to get the best experience, the best chances to go forward? As we know, it's more judge voted or steered towards the judges' scores.
With the semis, it's slightly more in favour of the judges and the audience. But I think what Mike and Richard said is interesting, kind of two similar takes, but also slightly different takes on it. So playing it safe is what you need to be doing, obviously. You don't want to be pushing the envelope too hard where you end up doing something that maybe hasn't been rehearsed enough or whatever. But at the same time, you want to put something in there that's slightly different if you're returning, especially if you've done Metal Smash a few times as well. So if you've been back a few years on the trot, you need to turn it up a notch. But yeah, it's just making sure you deliver the best possible set, which I know sounds painfully obvious, but that's what it's about. But I think advice for bands, from me is that even if you don't get through, it's about learning from that experience and how you can improve. So it's all about getting feedback of other people. It's about chatting to people in the audience, chatting to the organisers, and just having fun with it. And if you get through, that's a bonus, you know. And you learn from it, and you basically take what you've learned and improve your own performance, improve your band, and just put that into your rehearsal, take it to the live events, and just run with it. I think it's the perfect environment for that, for just building on what you've already done and improving it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off that, Nick, that was pretty much our experience as a band. Like, all of those shows were probably the best shows I've ever played in terms of, as you say, like networking, getting to a broad audience, people getting into your band. Like, it was really, really amazing for that. So even if you don't get through XYZ heat or whatever, like, it's always good for your band and you're, you know, getting your message out there. So
yeah, you're basically pressure testing it. You're pressure testing it with an audience. You're pressure testing it with people, you know, there's judges there. Their job is to judge the band, you know, and we try to make it as fair as possible with different categories for different aspects of what they're looking at. And then the audience vote is as fair as it can be, with like a first choice, second choice. And there's a load of maths that the team do in the background to kind of work out the exact scores. Each event has a score sheet, which is evidenced and kept on file if anyone's got any questions about, you know, how it works. Everything's there in black and white. It's not just someone's opinion going, yeah, them. You know, it's all there across multiple boards, across multiple people, but two separate things: audience votes and judges. So I think it's as fair as possible, and get that feedback and just work on it. Take it to the rehearsal space and go, right, well, they said, you know, maybe the guitar tone is a bit, you know, is a bit ropey, needs to be, you know, beefier, or you know, the drums need to tighten, or whatever it may be. I'm just picking stuff out of the sky here, but you know, why not take that and run with it and improve it? And what better environment to pressure test your art? Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Some feedback for those bands that are competing. So we've got 2 more quarterfinals to go, and then of course on to the semis.